me in person. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no problem. I was just gonna ask if you're distributing substitute for tonight. And it doesn't this
I was going to show up last night for Phillips. You live in Richmond? Yeah. I live about 3 miles that way. That's
You're lickety split if you'd be your lickety split if you had one.
as a matter of fact, I think it was Senator Owen that was ran for Senator, and Senator Owen was there. We're talking about Senator Owen. He says, you get those two. I said, how much? I said, I'll be here in about 20 minutes.
Thank you.
It takes me a while to walk from the parking garage to here. It's not bad. I think like a lot of our bills have been closed off. One of them was. Actually, that's not true. I think Senator Lucas got it. It was to add, it was to classify nurseries and daycares and schools.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
How's it going?
Good.
Saw you last week and said nice things about you. How's it going?
It's that finance is great.
It's a great project. Yeah.
So my hours, that one bill.
No, it's a great project. We've been doing a little bit of Facebook Live on on big stuff, but I mean this is a huge service. That means it's working. It's working. Behave differently. People talk differently.
Thank you for your
We opposed Marshall's bill last week, but he was absolutely right
if I were remotely
about
helping,
more sunlight needed in committees. So. How's that funded? Well, I know, but is there like a grant or something that's more than you're paid? So 70 people are getting paid, I mean, that's, I'm just curious. That was some good grant. It must be a grant. Good to see you. Everything else going okay? And are you living in Richmond?
It's definitely not bad, especially on a Friday.
We have like tennis this year. Yeah.
We violate all kinds of
Every year. But I tell you,
By the way, folks, I apologize. I thought we had those little things, that's okay. We're going to be doing it the old-fashioned way, putting our hands up in the air, or we're going to be very, well, with that, those are louder. That's right. Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Delegate Wright. Delegate Klein. Delegate Gilbert. Delegate Moorfield. Delegate Edmonds. Delegate Wilk. Delegate Weber. Delegate Morris. Delegate Barrett. Delegate O'Quinn. Delegate Head. Delegate Rush. Delegate Fowler. Delegate Davis. Delegate Tyler. Delegate Hope. Delegate Corey. Delegate Lopez. Delegate Simon. Delegate Rasool. Delegate Bell. Chair, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Quorum is present.
Okay, we have a forum. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We will begin with come to order. This morning, we will begin with a subcommittee report with Delegate Wright, Chairman Wright.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First bill of the morning is Paper 1879, the proposed bill. Qualifying a person or adjudicated delinquent of driving under illegally, after illegally consuming alcohol under the age of 21, or adjudicated delinquent of operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated within the 3-year period immediately preceding the application of obtaining a concealed handgun permit. Current law disqualifies persons convicted of operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated in the 3-year period immediately preceding the application of obtaining a concealed handgun permit. The subcommittee heard testimony on this legislation, and the recommendation was 3-0 to report, and also recommend.
Delegate Bowden. Do you have any additional comments you want to make with respect to the legislation? Could you use your microphone? Remember, your chairman is deaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the bill. My sheriff is one who came to me with the bill. And actually, he had an application for concealed handgun permit from a 22-year-old applicant who had had a DUI 2 days before his 21st birthday. And he admitted he had a blood alcohol level of 0.5 or 0.05, and that he'd been drinking even though he's underage. And so he was not required to have the 3-year wait as any other adult was, because he...
So essentially, your bill was leveling the playing field.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions of the committee? Any people here in the audience who support the bill? Okay. Do you have any comments, sir? Yes, sir. persons in support, any persons opposed? Hearing none, questions of the committee? Is there a motion on the bill? I'm sorry, you moved. I'm sorry, Chairman moved that the bill be reported here for a second. Second. Okay, that is the motion before us. Discussion of the motion. Hearing none. Clerk will call the roll.
Delegate Wright.
Clerk will suspend. All in favor of the motion will signify by raising your hand. Those opposed? Seeing none opposed, the bill is reported unanimously. Delegate White.
Mr. Chairman, the next bill is also Delegate Pogue's bill, House Bill 2369. House Bill 2369 replaces the requirement that a concealed carry permit holder present proof of a new address with the requirement that the permit holder present a written notice of the change of address on the form provided by the Department of State Police for a court to issue a replacement concealed handgun permit due to a change of address. It just simplifies the process, Mr. Chairman, and the committee recommendations to report unanimously and also move.
There's a motion to report, duly seconded. Delegate Pogue, you have any comments about your bill that was reported?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill says that you shouldn't have to require or provide proof of your new address when applying for an address change, because there is no requirement to show proof of address when applying for your new permit. So basically, just relieves another bit of text from the code and also another responsibility on behalf of the permit owner. And it can be brought to me by the CBO.
Members from the public here in support of the bill. Do you have any comments? Or those who oppose the bill? Seeing none, any questions from the committee? Mr. Terry? Yes. Delegate Simon? Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor of reporting the bill will signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, like sign. Thank the chair. The bill passes unanimously. Delegate Wright.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 2372 is Delegate Pogue's bill, and I understand Delegate Gilbert is the motion.
Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the patron wanted me to express how grateful he was for the opportunity to carry this bill. And after a full and thorough hearing, the subcommittee has opted to ask that we strike the bill at his request.
Okay, all in favor of striking the bill, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. No. What Delegate Simon shall be reported as opposed to that motion. Okay, Delegate Wright.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 24, Delegate Miller's bill, exempts a retired or resigned attorney for the Commonwealth or assistant attorney for the Commonwealth who was not terminated for cause and served at least 10 years prior to his retirement or resignation. During the most 12-month recent period, at his own expense, the standards of qualification and firearms training for active law enforcement officers in the Commonwealth, carries with him written proof of consultation with and favorable review of the need to carry a concealed handgun issued by the attorney for the Commonwealth, from whom officer retired or resigned, and has met the requirements of a qualified retired law enforcement officer pursuant to the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, from the prohibition on carrying a concealed handgun. The bill provides that a retired or resigned attorney for the Commonwealth or assistant attorney who has received such proof of consultation and favorable review shall have the opportunity to enter and participate at his expense in the same training and testing to carry firearms as required of active law enforcement officers in the Commonwealth. Mr. Chairman, this bill received a lot of debate. The committee's report was 2-1. There may be some discussion on it, but I would move to report.
There's a motion to report the bill. Is it duly seconded yet? Second. Okay, there's a second. Okay. So the committee can, I know don't see the patron here, but fortunately for the patron, this came from our Commonwealth's attorney, Mr. Paul Ebert, who, as you guys know, is the senior Commonwealth's attorney in the state. And his underlying concern is that whether we like it or not, Commonwealth's attorneys put some people behind bars, and they incur the unhappiness of many people who might otherwise do them harm when they get out of prison. And so they're concerned about that. And so he requested this bill be considered, and Delegate Miller carried the bill. Are there members of the public who are in favor of the bill? Are there members of the public who are opposed to the bill? Yes, sir.
Chairman, Andrew got on the G Center Public Safety. We've got nothing against Commonwealth attorneys. I think they should be able to look after their self-defense. However, if bills pass as they're being considered, it would be $5 every 5 years. And that's really not so onerous to get from.
Okay, so your objection, Mr. Goddard, is the $5 fees?
It's the fact that you get a point for $5 supplement. There seems to be a never-ending supply of people who need to be added onto this Christmas tree. And I don't think paying $5 every 5 years is going to be very onerous for anyone.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Sadler, Virginia Citizens Defense League. I make people angry every time I come down here. Does that mean I should get my phone number for example?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Curtis Brown, Governor's Office of Public Safety and Homeland Security. We do oppose this bill. Believe that the current process is not onerous to obtain a permit.
Okay. So the administration opposed, okay. Any questions of the committee? Yes, Tony, something.
I guess my question is, exactly, how is this easier than the current process? It seems like they actually have to have more firearms training. Is it free? Is it they can carry in places that regularly concealed carry permit holders can't carry? Is it aware? How is this better than just going out and getting yourself regular concealed carry permit? But how does this improve the process of almost carrying?
All I can tell you is that what was given to us by the Commonwealth's attorney is he believes this is a good construct to obtain this purpose. So I think that's why we're here, to debate whether or not we agree with the purpose or not. But any other comments from the committee? Yes, Kelly.
I share the concerns that this has become a Christmas tree, and we need to add to it. Commonwealth's attorneys are currently exempt from having to go through the concealed carry process when they're active, but this would extend that to past, which I would say at least half the bar spent at least some period in Commonwealth's attorney's office. We've got just about half of those attorneys being able to take advantage of this if they wanted to. But I'm concerned that we are poking too many holes in the statute, and we'll have a bill hopefully next week to clear the slate on that and pass constitutional carry. But in the meantime, I'm going to post it.
Okay, there's a motion right now to report the bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Substitute motion.
Change motion.
Late bill. Second.
Tabling is not a debatable motion. There's a motion to table the bill. All in favor of tabling the bill will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Delegate Wright.
Mr. Chairman, that completes the report.
Okay, the only subcommittee report I think I know of mine is the bill. You're up my bill. And so we won't take up my bill now, we'll take up my bill last. I want to get the other page. So Delegate Anderson, your bill, Delegate Rush's, Delegate Roberts, Delegate Keene's, and Delegate Klein's bill are all in front of the full committee. So Delegate Anderson, would you please come up and take us through House Bill 1720? Let us give our attention to Delegate Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you today House Bill 1720, which provides localities guidance on how to lower or when to lower flags at half-staff during periods of death of those who are involved in public safety services in the Commonwealth. Specifically, this results from the Ashley Wyndon murder, Officer Ashley Wyndon of the Prince William County Police Department at this time last year. When those flags were lowered, the current code simply says that when an individual is killed in the line of duty, all flags, state and local, flown in any building, this is the operative statement, owned and operated by the Commonwealth, shall be flown at half-staff. In my home county of Prince William, it resulted in confusion because individuals in charge of various county facilities did not think they had the authority to lower, and only by request did the governor, at the end of the day, rectify this by issuing directives. What this does is simply adds or any political subdivision thereof, and therefore clears this matter up for local officials. The additional thing that you will see in there, you do have a substitute that does this, is it specifies the word instead of half-mast, half-staff, because military purists came to me with the advice that a staff is on land and a mast is on ship, and therefore wanted both included. And so you have that substitute before you, Mr. Chair.
I'm so glad we have resolved that. Are there anyone from the public in favor of the bill? Speak to it. Is anyone here opposed to the bill who would like to speak to it? Are there questions of the committee? Yes, sir.
My apologies. Don't see in the substitute. I guess you can move the substitute.
You'd be correct. There is a substitute. Is there a motion on the substitute? I move to report the substitute. Is there a second? I'm sorry. I'm backing up. A motion to put the substitute before us. Is there such a motion? Is there a second? Substitute is before us. Okay. Any other questions about the substitute?
Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Will.
Forgive me, I'm not seeing anything in the substitute that addresses the staff versus mass bombing.
Mr. Chairman,
Y'all
in
get
the
it?
title, you will see it there at the very beginning, a bill to amend and reenact, ...
So it's a title. Well, council, does the title?
Mr. Chairman, the reason we need the substitute is because of the title of the section. The title of the section in current code is flag at half-mast for certain public safety personnel killed in the line of duty. However, the language in the bill itself, the section itself is correct, but in order to change the title of the section, we have to do a substitute. However, titles of the section don't come in the same as the normal, so it's not underlined, but that's what the
Let me
change
help
is.
everybody. So this covers staff and mass on line 10.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a bill before us. Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, is there a motion on the substitute? There's a motion to report the substitute duly seconded. All in favor will signify by raising your hand. Opposed, like sign. Bill reports unanimous. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, our next bill was Delegate Rush, House Bill 1745. Delegate Rush, you have the floor. Each way. You got a microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, this is House Bill 1745. It's the restoration of firearm rights, and it's reporting for the state police to put in the CCRE. This came, we voted on this last year. It was sent to appropriations because the state police said last year that they would have to, it would cost them some money to do it. They said this year that it wouldn't, so we laid it on the table in appropriations last year. This is the exact form of the bill that we that I had, and this came about because of, once your rights are restored, that information is kept locally at your clerk's office and not put into the criminal database that state police and deputies and police officers check when they pull you over. So you could be legally carrying and have a firearm in your car, and the state police or the officer that pulls you over may not know that. This was brought to me by a local town of Christiansburg police officer. After I introduced the bill, there was actually a lawsuit against the Commonwealth from the, against the state police where this actually happened. And they ended up settling for several $100,000 because the gentleman was arrested for having a firearm. His rotator cuff was tore when he was handcuffed, and then he spent a night in jail while they were trying to verify whether he could lawfully carry it or not. I think it's a real problem, and the actual, I hate to be a police officer pulling somebody over at 9 o'clock on Friday after the clerk's office is closed. We're all Americans. We take our rights very seriously, and for someone to tell you that you're not lawfully carrying when you are, could be a confrontation.
Okay, any members of the public support the bill?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Sadler, Virginia Citizens Defense League, and fellow citizens, regrets he couldn't be here. There's been a lot of talk about restoration of rights over recent years, and somehow firearms rights always gets left in the dust. Rights restoration is a minefield for folks trying to regain their gun rights, and this is a huge step forward. We want to thank Delegate Rush for carrying this bill, and we hope it will be your pleasure to support.
Okay, anybody else in support of the bill? Please identify yourself.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Theo Stamos on the Council Attorney for Arlington and Falls Church. I'm here on behalf of APA this morning, and we are in support of this bill.
Is there anyone else in support of the bill? Anyone opposed? Yes, sir, please step forward and identify yourself.
Mr. Chairman, Keenan Book with the Department of State Police. Apologize to the patron if he misunderstood our conversation about it. The state police did have one particular concern, and we tried to address that with an amendment, a proposed amendment to the section that would allow us to conduct this, to add this information to the criminal history through a fingerprint-based addition. If we don't have fingerprints in order to associate with the criminal history, we cannot be sure that we are dealing with the right person. We might get a name and date of birth, but the way the criminal records are indexed, that could associate with two people. We could end up with the wrong person. So we want to be sure we do it as a fingerprint-based check. And I could offer to the chairman where in 308.2 that amendment could be inserted if the chair would like to hear that.
If you want to propose your amendment, that's fine.
Sir, Mr. Chairman.
Council, I know you're going to speak to, first conceptually hear what he wants to do, and then.
Point of clarification, you can't propose an amendment. He can speak to a suggestion.
I didn't mean to propose it.
You can't propose it. Someone actually has to do it here. So what you want to do is add fingerprints. Hang on. So if I understand what you're saying, police council, do you want to add fingerprints because you think you do enough in order to accurately do this?
Precisely, Mr. Chairman.
Tony Rush.
I believe that is needed with the date, address, and or date of birth, full name, and address, that should be sufficient. And this is the exact same form of the bill that we passed last year unanimously. I have had this pushback from the state police for several years on this. There seems to be some sort of reason why that maybe it's not being discussed, why this is not one. And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this information is available to state troopers who do background checks at gun shows. They just don't make the information available to the road deputies, to the state troopers on the road, and to police officers on the road. I'm constantly wondering why this is constantly opposed by state police.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question for state police. If we don't accept your amendment, are you in support of the bill? What is the position of state police?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate, the Department of State Police, without the amendment, continues to have concerns about the bill because the criminal history records are fingerprint-based. They are all fingerprint-based, and we cannot associate something to an individual criminal history without a fingerprint-based record.
So, follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, are you saying as Delegate Rush's bill is constructed, it's not workable? If you pull someone over, you can't get that information without the fingerprint? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not speaking to the, Mr. Chairman, I'm not speaking to the, to when someone is pulled over, but rather how it's added to the record in the first place. I'm saying that the state police cannot accurately place information about a restoration of a firearm privilege on the right record unless it's fingerprint-based.
Final question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, without your amendment, does the state police support or oppose Delegate Rush?
Without the amendment, Mr. Chairman, the state police continues to have concerns that we will not be able to implement.
But you don't, do you oppose, he's asking you, are you opposed?
Concerns, not
We have concerns, Mr. Chairman.
You have concerns, you're not saying that you oppose it, you're saying you have concerns.
Yes, Mr.
Is that
Chairman.
correct?
Yes, Mr.
Tell me why.
Question for state police. The restoration of rights process is a fingerprint-based process, so the applicant must provide fingerprints for the restoration of rights, correct?
Mr. Chairman, as I understand the process that is outlined in this provision, it is done on a petition without the necessity of fingerprints. And our proposal was to add the fingerprinting as part of that process.
So they don't need to have their rights restored. When that application is made to the circuit court, fingerprints are not required.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding of that process, I have no experience with the restoration of firearms rights process with the court. As I read the bill right now, that is my understanding of the process, that fingerprints are not required of the petitioner, but that's a little out of my scope.
Well, let me just ask this question, because I think, that with apologies to Delegate Rush, I think we do need to understand the process here a little better. You raised, I think,
Well, Mr. Chairman, my point is that they're not needed for the restoration process, the underlying restoration process. Why would they be needed at this late point in the process for the putting the information up on a database? So that's why I would propose Delegate Rush.
Mr. Chairman, what this is making available the fact that their rights were restored. This is all this bill does. It changes nothing about how your rights are restored.
whether your rights are already restored, you're just trying to get the database right.
Mr. Chairman, we're just trying to get the database right so that we avoid conflict.
What is it, the Social Security part of the record set that comes?
Mr. Chairman, even with Social Security
But
numbers.
Social Security is part of the record set. Because right now, we no longer do fingerprints for concealed carry because Social Security, I mean, we repealed that law, how long ago? About 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So we took fingerprints out of concealed carry applications 5 years ago, and those go to you too at some point for background checks. So, I'm trying to understand if this is just about record keeping and getting the database right, and not about the actual restoration of the rights. Delegate Rush.
It may make a point to you. They have a database where this is kept, which they do not require fingerprints for. There are two databases, one for the background check, so the 5 or 6 troopers who go to gun shows throughout the Commonwealth, they have this information, and they don't require this. This is just making that information that is already collected by our clerks of court available to road deputies road troopers, and our police.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Delegate Weber.
Question for the patron. So, as I understand it, the primary reason for this piece of legislation is if somebody who has had their rights restored is pulled over for a speeding ticket, and the officer happens to see a firearm, they don't haul them to jail and inconvenience them for a day. They can check a database, write them their speeding ticket, and send them upon their way, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I will add, this information is available, it just has to be put on the other system.
And so your point is, with respect to an amendment on fingerprints, that it is completely unnecessary, is that your point?
Mr. Chairman, it's unnecessary, they already have the information.
Understand. Okay, Delegate Simon.
So, Mr. Chairman, the question would take place as well. There's a second amendment that you guys are looking for as well, it looks like, that has to do with what information is displayed in the database. That it would indicate that the petition restoration is from that date backward in the CCRE, that it clarifies that the restoration of rights applies only to Virginia, and doesn't remove the firearm disability imposed by any other state or federal court. Is that something that you guys want in this bill as well, as far as what pops up in the database?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Simon, yes, the purpose of that portion of our concern was that these records will also be queried by other state agencies, and our concern was that the information accurately reflect if somebody is stopped out of state, they would understand the scope of the restoration information for purposes of enforcement in other states.
So,
Delegate Simon.
I'd like to propose an amendment that I've seen and read and understood, which would, if I could have one of which is somewhere very out.
Why don't you give it to the council and let the council sort it one time for all of us?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the state trooper or state police representative, is this information already on the system that you keep?
How do you fund it?
Mr. Chairman, we do retain records about, for instance, a portion of this discussion related to records we keep outside of our criminal history, our CCH database that relate to the right to carry a firearm. We do hold that information, however, not on an individual's criminal history. And criminal histories, when we're talking about that specific record and not another database that maintains that record, it is that record is a fingerprint-based record, and we would be adding something to a fingerprint-based system that is not fingerprint-based. So it's not a question of whether the information can be maintained by the state police without fingerprints. It's whether the information can be maintained in that database on that record that is a fingerprint-based record.
I understand, but, databases are data, so they can be configured any way you really desire them to do. Delegate Roger.
Yeah, I guess that didn't answer my question. The question was on the specific, how the information is displayed. They have two databases.
Right.
And I'd like to know, the suggestion he has is on the other database
I'm
also.
having a hard time understanding why it's insuperable to display a database however you want to display it. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with that. I don't think it's an impossibility to do, so. Okay, Delegate Simon is, I guess, proposed an amendment of sorts, so council, would you sort of walk us through what you think those amendments are? And then we will take them up one at a time.
Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that we're just doing the one amendment, or are we doing the fingerprint amendment as well? All right. The fingerprint amendment that we've been discussing, this would start on line 129 after appropriate authority insert new language. The petitioner shall obtain from a law enforcement agency one complete set of the petitioner's fingerprints and shall provide that agency with a copy of the petition. The law enforcement agency shall submit the set of fingerprints to the Central Criminal Records Exchange, CCRE, with a copy of the petition attached.
Okay, so that is the amendment. Does everyone understand that amendment? Is there a motion on the amendment?
Delegate Clark, question for state police. How much does it cost to get your fingerprints done by state police?
Mr. Chairman, the state police does not directly charge a fee for fingerprints. For background checks, the current fee is $25. However, this is not a background check. This is the submission of fingerprints. So if someone, I think it would be incumbent upon the individual to go to the sheriff's office or wherever they might go to get their fingerprints taken.
Okay, so, all right, let's get this in the proper condition.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Just suspend for a second. We're going to get this in the proper position. Is there a motion on the amendment? Is there a second on the amendment?
No, actually,
Okay, there's no second on the amendment. That amendment passes by. Second amendment, please.
Never mind, withdrawn.
Okay. Go ahead, second amendment.
Is the second amendment withdrawn or just the first one?
The second amendment is withdrawn? Okay, so the bill is before us at this time. Delegate Simon, do you want the second amendment? Delegate Simon, procedure.
Thank you so much, second amendment withdrawn.
Delegate Simon, I want to be clear. We were dealing with these, we were dealing with what you sent over in two pieces. The first amendment died for a lack of a second. Now we have an idea for the second piece. Do you desire to proceed with that?
I don't know if everyone paying them drop will be clear.
All right. We are paying total attention, and we want to make sure. We want to make sure that you have your moment here. It's important to do that. Fair enough. Okay, the bill has, there is a, I believe, there's a motion on the bill. Is there a second? Okay, the bill is, there's a motion to report, duly seconded. Further discussion on the legislation. Hearing, yes,
Did you ask if there's anyone else here to testify?
I think I asked that earlier. Did I not?
State police will be deciding.
Is there anyone else here that cares to speak against it? Okay, seeing none, we will have the clerk call the roll.
Delegate Wright. Delegate Klein. Delegate Gilbert. Delegate Morefield. Delegate Edmonds. Delegate Wilk. Delegate Weaver. Delegate Morris. Delegate Ferris. Delegate O'Quinn. Delegate Head. Delegate Rush. Delegate Fowler. Delegate Davis. Delegate Tyler. Delegate Hope. Delegate Corey. Delegate Lopez. Delegate Simon. Delegate Rasool. Delegate Bell. Mr. Chairman.
Aye. Bill reports. What is the number there, Mr. Wilk?
19-1.
Thank you. Bill reports 19-1. Okay, our next bill is Delegate Weber. Delegate Weber, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we have moved a bill forward that does similarly, I would like to ask that it be tabled.
Okay, the gentleman has moved to table his bill. Is there a second? Okay, that is not a debatable motion. All in favor of tabling the bill will say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill is tabled. Delegate Klein.
Mr. Chairman, I have the same bill, House Bill 2263, and I ask, I move that be tabled as well.
And the gentleman, and there's a second on the table. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill is tabled. I think we're down to my bill. Delegate King. Good morning, Delegate King. Please come forward and explain your vitally important legislation.
I'm so quiet and neat, though, Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. This bill was actually before one of the subcommittees. Unfortunately, because of lack of quorum, this bill is now before you. And so, I'd like to start, if I may, sir, with a written statement of my constituent who came down last Tuesday to testify.
Let me ask a question. Is your bill been amended in any form or fashion?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, it's as introduced 2118. Okay, thank you. Sorry. So what I'm asking of Mr. Chairman, just a quick background is, one of my constituents, Mr. Philip Eichner, used to be a school board member, but he chaired a subcommittee within a Fairfax County Police report, task force that was formed by our county board of supervisors. They spent about a year or so looking at all the various different police practices, with the understanding that this is not about going back and saying that the county or any, for that matter, any jurisdiction in Virginia did anything wrong, but going forward, how do we improve police and community relations so that we can prevent any types of, obviously, instances we've seen around the country. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can in our state, both in terms of training our police officers, as well as going forward, having mechanisms in place so that if there were to ever be an unfortunate police shooting or anything that involves conflicts between our community and the police, that we have the best set of information and training available in a going forward process. So in that context, I had introduced two bills. One was a body cam, which didn't go forward, but this bill would do three things, Mr. Chairman, and I'll just explain very briefly what it does and have to answer any questions. The first part, let me actually go backwards. The first part is toward the very end of the bill, lines 234, 235, and 236. Basically, what we are seeking, Mr. Chairman, is as Fairfax County tries to develop its own model policies on dealing with potential police shootings, we want to make sure that we're applying the best practices that our state and other jurisdictions are doing. So to the extent that we have minimum standards that go across all jurisdictions within the state so that we treat these things similarly, we just want to make sure we're coordinated. I know that some folks would like to go beyond that and actually create an independent audit organization. I'm sure the county would support it as well, but that would be a lot bigger than what I'm seeking. So this is basically just creating, or allowing for all jurisdictions to follow one established policies that involve independent review of police shootings across all counties and jurisdictions. Second and third pieces are similar, and they're on page 3, lines 166 down to 172. Essentially, what we would like to do, Mr. Chairman, members, is there are already existing training standards for police as they are being trained to go out onto the streets.
No, yes, sir. Just about what we're talking about, ECJS here. Yes, sir. Let me bring you up to speed on something that you may know. Yesterday, at appropriations, we dealt with some budget amendments that Delegate Karen brought forward. I think that's
Similar.
They linked to this in some form or fashion.
I did not do my own budget amendments.
You did your own budget amendments?
No, sir, because I didn't realize that the governor was working on his own process.
Let me just share with you what that discussion was.
Sure.
The discussion was, we are very, very keen on making sure that this training is integrated into the standards for policing. And the larger discussion that we had in the subcommittee that I shared on appropriations was, what are our jurisdictions doing now? My guess is that Arlington, Fairfax, and Prince William, and Manassas, several, I'm just speaking generally, do a pretty good job of making sure our police are aware of implicit bias, implicit bias, and want to make sure that, the police are doing their job as they should. And the question that came out of that subcommittee is, can we say with any certainty who is not actually doing this kind of proactive common sense policing? The answer was, ECJS was the answer. They have not really gone out and inventoried all of our 134 jurisdictions about who is doing what. So here's what the appropriations committee said to the Secretary of Public Safety and to Delegate Herring yesterday, which is, we need to take a step back. Delegate Peace has Chris Peace has a amendment that is going to seek to try to pull this together and get a better estimate of what our organization is doing in training the policy customers. If we determine that, we may actually discover, surprise, that a locality is doing something better than the state might contemplate. Because the state standards, as your bill correctly points out, I don't think they're really updated for years. So this needs to be done. The question is, does it need to be done right now before we have actually done the kinds of inventories that we need to find out the best practices
our police are doing in the state. And so I can say to you, this will not be particularly well received, I'm sure, if you want your bill, but there'll be no funding bill in this budget. And so therefore, even if we refer this bill, I think in this juncture, we will not have a happy outcome for you. Delegate Klein, you have a comment on it.
Well, reviewing the bill, it sounded familiar. In fact, and this happens during the short session, Delegate Price had a similar bill that was considered in sub two, and was laid on the table. So I just wanted to make the patron aware that this bill, similar bill has been debated.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
You may
you may be surprised that we actually don't coordinate very well before we come down here because we're all working out on that.
Well, Delegate Klein and Delegate Rucker just tabled two bills that they didn't know a third person had put in either. So their bills were done to divide. Who was the gentleman? So Delegate Campbell decided to preempt these two gentlemen on their bills.
Mr. Chairman, respecting your time and his time, I appreciate that feedback and comment, and my goal is just make sure that we are in fact coordinating.
Yes.
I would short for an hour, we do, just want to make sure we're coordinating. So that's happening, it's great.
I hope that we will bring a bipartisan bill next year on this. When DCJS does what we ask them to do. It may take a few years to go out and show them all this stuff. But it does need to be incorporated in the training. And we just need to make sure we do it right the first time. That's, I think, that was the real thing. Yes, Delegate.
Mr. Chair, I move to lay the bill on the table.
Is there a motion to second? Okay, the bill is moved to be tabled, duly seconded, not debatable. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
Okay, I think we're now Did everyone hear me from here okay, or do you, I'm happy to go to the podium, but. All right. This is House Bill 1998, and it is a substitute, so I'm going to yield the gavel to the Vice Chairman for the procedure.
Now, a second, okay, there's a motion and a second to the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries the substitute before you go.
Thank you, Chairman Ryan. This bill is essentially an update to an organization that some of you may know about, which is the Secure Commonwealth Power. How many of you know about the Secure Commonwealth Power? A lot. Let me tell you where this thing derived. This was developed back in the early 2000s after 9/11, when the Commonwealth decided that they needed a panel to advise the governor and advise the legislature on steps that we should do to better safeguard ourselves. And the administration, I'm sure, is prepared to come forward and talk this. When I drafted this bill this summer, my intent was to try to update the bill to get us a little better focus on what we need to be looking at in terms of Commonwealth security preparedness for our state. I'm going to tell you that I gave this to the Secretary's office, and I asked them to basically do a look at my bill, and they have come back with this substitute, which I agree to. This is a good approach. Let's have the administration come up and let's kind of walk through this, and we have time. I'm not going to keep you too long on this, but I really want you to understand what you're voting on, okay? So first, why don't you identify yourself for the first one?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Curtis Brown, Deputy Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Stern. I'm the state coordinator for the Virginia Department of Works and Management.
Committee, I'm going to walk you through this very briefly, and then I'm going to ask you gentlemen to comment on what we think about this and how we should proceed forward. But as you look on the first page, we basically added the chairman of this committee and the chairman of the Senate Committee on General Laws and Technology, which is the public safety sort of counterpart that deals with a lot of the things that deals with Secure Commonwealth out of the Senate side, so that they would have a consistent presentation. We've added Jeff Stern to this piece. He is the state coordinator for emergency management. Amazingly, he was not on this. It didn't make any sense. We've added the state police as well. We've also
and this is a very good piece, I think you guys actually worked this in, I don't know if I did this or not, but it's a good amendment. We're going to have representatives from both the appropriations and the Senate Finance Committees to be part of the workings of this organization, because there's a funding piece to make sure that we're doing our job right, and we want to make sure that they're aware. I've scoped this a little differently this year. You'll notice in the title on line 10, we've added resilient to it as well. That's a very important component in security. It's not just security, but resiliency. In other words, can we absorb an attack and continue to function? And that's a very key point. So back on line 36, we've looked at scoping the job of this panel a little better. In the last couple of years, it's kind of wandered about the terrain. It's gotten into drones, and it's gotten into all kinds of secondary issues. And really, in my judgment, sort of come away from the keen focus that we should have on public safety and emergency management. We also have in this a reporting requirement to report to the Senate Finance and the Senate Committee on General Laws, and to the Appropriations and to the Militia, an annual report on just how we're doing. Because I think that many of us on this committee ought to know, since we're the jurisdictional committee in public safety, how we're doing and are we prepared. And I think our knowledge is kind of low on that. I think we learn that episodically, and we want something more routinized and clear-minded. The last big component that I'll cite here, and then I'm going to ask Jeff and Curtis to speak, is when you have a crisis, and the governor is moving quickly to try to execute on that crisis, frequently the General Assembly is kind of left out there trying to figure out what's going on by way of the news. And that's not the most reliable way for us to communicate to the legislative body, which is a co-equal body with the government. And so we are going to ask the Secretary to appoint a group. It's sort of detailed in there who's part of that group. I'd be part of that group. The chairman and the Senate would be part of that group, and some other folks who would be brought in and given, to the extent permitted, a full scope of what the governor's response is, so that we in turn can update you and inform our colleagues in the legislature as to what is going on, so that we've got clear communication and you've got good data. And you're not having to guess from reading in the press what is going on in a severe crisis. So that's kind of the bill. Jeff, Curtis, do you guys want to talk about this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm going to kick it off and I'll turn it over to Dr. Stern. But as the chairman mentioned, this is a modernization of this legislation, which needed to be updated, looking at a post 9/11 perspective based on our recent threats. And given the amount of critical infrastructure in the Commonwealth, which you all are very well aware of, large DOD presence, Port of Virginia, all the critical assets that supports national security, moving in this direction would better align us to focus on resilience, protecting that critical infrastructure from various threats, including cybersecurity issues as well. I'll let Dr. Stern speak in reference to other parts of the bill, but it provides a more seamless and efficient way to communicate with the legislature as we move forward in the executive branch with preparing our homeland security and emergency management assets to protect citizens during disasters.
Jeff, please identify yourself. I don't know if you guys have met Jeff, but you know him because you get a ton of emails from him, but you probably never met him.
Stop emailing me, Jeff.
Introduce yourself. Do me a favor. Give me the 30-second rotary piece on your background and what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dr. Jeff Stern. I was appointed by Governor McCall to office 3 years ago as the State Coordinator of Emergency Management. Prior experience as the Deputy Coordinator of Emergency Management in Arlington, while I was a firefighter paramedic there. At the beginning of my career, I worked in the Bush administration at the White House and at the Department of Homeland Security and at the beginning of the Obama administration. So I do consider myself a nonpartisan professional, public safety. It's an honor to be here. We've led the Department of Emergency Management through its most comprehensive reforms over the last year and a half to completely meet the new risk environment that we faced.
history of doing a lot of great work, but the agency was in need of some renewal. So we have decentralized the agency. Instead of less than 10% of our staff, now almost 30% of the staff are in the regional offices that we've opened up closer to your jurisdictions to serve you better. We've done that at no cost to the state because we just decentralized positions. We've developed a comprehensive program under Chief Financial Officer where all our grant programs, 89% of our funding comes from grants and special funds is all integrated together under a single CFO. And we've been working very closely with the chairman and our other public safety colleagues, state police, national guard, et cetera, to make sure that all that aspects of resources in the Commonwealth can be brought to bear on the suite of different hazards that we face, from terrorism to cybersecurity to the natural hazards we persistently face, and some of it Hurricane Matthew.
Okay, how does this legislation impact what you do?
So I think several years ago, the General Assembly, in its wisdom, combined Homeland Security back with public safety. We've learned a lot about Homeland Security in the last 15 years. The Secure Commonwealth Panel has a legacy advisory body, policy board, had not been updated a lot. So what this does, I think, elevates it with the appointment of state level leadership. It's similar to that legislation that joined Homeland Security and public safety together, puts the right pieces of the legislative branch and the executive branch together. The emergency management advisory group that is called for here formalizes the ability to have a two-way conversation with the executive and legislative branch. I think we've been very proactive in this administration with trying to do conference calls when there's been states of emergency, but those are kind of one way because of the limited time and the number of people. This provides the leadership group the ability to have a two-way conversation. And it also appropriately, we do a lot of reports, but it appropriately talks about us providing insight into the emergent and changing risks that the Commonwealth faces, the threats, the hazards, the vulnerabilities, the consequences as they change from a wide variety of hazards. Again, terrorism, cybersecurity, infrastructure, and lets you all as leadership have better insight into those changes. After 9/11, we were very worried about terrorism almost solely. The suite of dangers and threats as far widened. We've seen everything, and from cybersecurity, Ebola, Zika, to public health representatives on there. And having the public safety leadership with the legislative leadership and the executive branch leadership, I think, is as the General Secretary said, modernization, and there really is a tweaking. Part of the bill calls for adopting or taking on the duties of what has traditionally, for about the last 30 years, been the Virginia Emergency Response Council, the legacy 1970s EPA mandated body that was basically the state agency heads to discuss environmental risks, and those risks are emerging. So I think it's a good step forward. It was a great initiative from the chairman and on behalf of the secretary. We're happy to work with him to help.
Let me just say to the committee, I think that the thing that I'm excited about in particular, I'm not excited about seeing a price of belief, I'm not excited about that, but when there is one, what this group will be able to do as part of this is then follow in behind with our own conference call so that we can hear back from legislators from your perspective, because sometimes you'll have a perspective in your district that's wildly different from one somewhere else. And so it's important that we have a mechanism by which the group can then go back and say, here's what legislators are worried about. And this is the information they feel like they're not getting. And so hopefully we will have a little better articulation there and give the legislature a little better insight into what is going on when we have a major crisis. Any other comments from the public? Anybody opposed to the bill? Comments from the committee? Yes, sir.
Overall, still back to chairmanship, still would like to support the measure, but I want to, sir, just a comment. I want to be sure that what we're doing here, when it gets down to crunch time in a crisis, that everybody that you're talking about is not going to be so busy communicating with us that you're not taking care of the emergency.
I think we sorted out any concerns about that. The bill calls for it at the discretion of the secretary to call it, so we can time that out. we've made it as a standard set of procedures that we try within the first 24 to 40 hours to do a general call with the General Assembly anyways. Again, it's been one way, so, you know, we're not talking about hours-long meetings, we're talking about a quick update if there's anything.
Delegate Will makes actually a very good point, which is why we put that language in. What we're talking about, I envision the group we call together with something really bad that's happening, that may involve some sensitive information, possible classified information. But, you know, hurricanes and brush fires and things of that nature, I think the standard procedure we use is just.
Any further questions?
Second.
Motion and made second to report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Bill report. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that completes our docket for today. Committee, there